Okay, folks, thank you for joining us tonight, and good evening. Eric Johnson, partner here at Moneco Advisors. On behalf of your entire Moneco Advisors team, we thank you all for joining us for what will no doubt be a very impactful discussion this evening. The topic tonight, of course, is Social Security, preparing for retirement, tactics, strategies, and timing. Joining us this evening is MFS Investment Management, one of our key investment company partners, along with Trevor Garrett, a specialist with the firm's Social Security group. Trevor has a deep passion for helping to create and present programs on several areas of financial planning focused on educating, inspiring, and motivating audiences. Trevor joined MFS in 2019 and earned his Bachelor of Science degree up the road from Bentley University. Before we get going, just a couple housekeeping items. We will do our best to address any and all questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to submit them during the discussion so you don't forget using the chat messaging function at the bottom of Zoom here. Thank you again to Trevor, his counterpart Rob Billick, for their support in assisting us with putting this event together tonight. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Trevor.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting us into your living room, family room, wherever you may be dialing in from. I like to begin these by asking you all a question. On a scale of 0 to 100%, how much of your income during retirement do you think that Social Security is designed to replace? 0 to 100%. No, in a virtual format tonight, so just get a ballpark figure in your head, 0 to 100%. And then before I give you the answer to that question, I actually have one more for you. Who out there has taken a look at your Social Security statement? If you haven't already, it's super easy to do so. You can go online through the Social Security Administration's website, ssa.gov, and create an account. And if you have taken a look at your statement, I'm sure your eyes have gravitated towards your benefit amount at 62, your full retirement age, and beyond. There's actually a sentence on that document that reads, Social Security is not designed to be your only source of income in retirement, because the answer to that question I opened up with on a scale of 0 to 100% is 40%. Social Security is designed to replace approximately 40% of your monthly income and be part of this retirement income picture or puzzle, which is why you're working with Eric and the advisors here at Moneco. So over the next 20 to 25 minutes is typically how long the slides take. We'll run through 3 topics. Your retirement benefit, how it's maximized, how it's calculated. Number 2 is going to be claiming options or strategies if you are currently or ever were married. Then we'll wrap things up briefly on taxes and then open up to Q&A as long as you guys want. So I will start off with the most popular question I get asked by far and away on Social Security, and that's just, is it going to be there when my time comes? Every time I'm reading something in the news or a headline, it's about the negative funding of Social Security. And I don't have an answer for you that's made its way through U.S. Congress or legislation, unfortunately. We don't believe that they're going to address it until it becomes more mission critical. So the shortfall of the Social Security Trust is not expected to occur for about another 10 years. So 2034 is the first time that it won't be fully funded. And it's important to note that fully funded doesn't mean that your check's going to go from $3,000 a month to 0. In that year, 2034, it's expected to be about 80% funded. So you get 80 cents on every dollar should no changes be made. We will cover throughout the course of the presentation a couple of options they have available to them to increase the solvency of the fund or the health of the cash in the fund to pay these. We just don't believe that they're going to address it with legislation until it becomes more mission critical. And the reason being that it would be very difficult to run for political office if your platform was to change this program significantly or raise taxes a lot to pay for it. It'd be really difficult to get elected. What we do believe will happen is actually what's about to happen here in the next week or so. And that's when we do the debt ceiling dance, right? When the government's about to shut down, it's going to be a funding shortfall. And then all of a sudden, when it comes down to the wire, that's when we get bipartisan support in the House and the Senate. We anticipated being a pretty similar scenario. That being said, I can't tell the future, especially a decade from now. But the great news is that anytime a change has been made to Social Security, they grandfather in anyone who's at or around claiming age. So at MFS, we're pretty confident that if you're above the age of 50, you're going to get all these benefits that they promise you. They're not going to keep moving the goalposts back on you. So with that, we can take a dive into our first topic, your retirement benefit. And the most important thing that you need to know is your full retirement age. So you can see at the top of the screen here, starts at age 66 and gradually increases to age 67. So one note on the solvency of the fund, this is an option that they have available to them to increase the funding, right? It's just keep pushing the goalposts back. So Social Security is 88 years old, and it wasn't always 66 years was full retirement age. But look what's happening. We have medical advancements. People are living longer and longer. It kind of makes sense that people need to be living later in their careers, or working later in their careers, excuse me. So all calculations are based upon where you are in relation to your full retirement age. Are you older? Are you younger? Are you at your exact age? How much older? How much younger? For example, your retirement benefit. When I say your retirement benefit, I mean the benefit that you get for paying into that program for all those years and seeing that line item taken out of your paycheck. To qualify for a retirement benefit, you have to pay Social Security tax for 40 quarters. And then your benefit amount, you can see that on your statement. They arrive at that by averaging your 35 highest earning years of work. After your full retirement age, it's going to grow at 8% a year, guaranteed until you're 70. So a pretty simple question or answer to the question, how do I maximize my Social Security? Well, on a dollar by dollar basis, it's just to wait until you turn 70 if you're going to be filing on your own earnings record. You do become allowed or eligible to take a Social Security check as early as 62. So you can't collect before 62, especially on your own earnings record, but you will see that you take a pretty big haircut right here, right? 30%. So you're only gonna get 70% of your full retirement age benefit if you file at 62 as early as you can versus 67. So these are all annual numbers in this bar chart, but they are technically calculated monthly. It's just not a nice round number on a month-to-month basis, the fraction of a percentage. So I like to say for every 2 months after your full retirement age, you wait to claim, you'll see a 2% increase in your benefit amount. Important note, this is 8% guaranteed and adjusted for inflation every year. I work for MFS. We're an investment manager. We'd love to sell you a product that grows 8% guaranteed every year and adjusted for inflation. Fortunately, we can't do that. It's illegal. So we do try to get people to grow Social Security later into their career if they can. Again, everyone's situation is going to be unique. It depends on your marital status, your health, your outside assets as well, which is incredibly important to sit down with your advisor that's invited you here today, because they're going to be in some of the best position to help you with those claiming decisions. So if you are below full retirement age and working, there are going to be limits to how much you earn before they're going to withhold your benefits. So the first 2 questions that I always ask people, an advisor or when I'm working with their client, is number 1, are you working? And number 2, are you below your full retirement age? If you are working, you are below your full retirement age, you're going to be subject to that earnings limit. The answer is typically pretty simple. It's don't turn on Social Security and let it continue to grow. Remember that this is a retirement benefit. So if you're going to retire before your full retirement age and then also work and collect earned income, you're not really retired, right? So they're going to recoup some of that money that they've been paying to you. So you can see if you're under your full retirement age and you still want to work, you're limited to about $21,000 a year, and it comes out to about $1,770 a month. So especially the first year you claim, if you go over $1,770 per month, they're going to withhold your entire check the next month, right? I always get a question from an advisor. My client went back to work, didn't notify the IRS and SSA, and then started to get money taken out of their checks and losing checks, and he wants to know, are they being robbed? And you're not being robbed if they are going to withhold as a result of this earnings limit. They will pay back everything that they have withheld because you are entitled to it. You just won't get it until you reach your full retirement age. They'll recalculate your benefit once you cross your full retirement age to make up for all of that loss. Well, this is if you're below your full retirement age. The year you reach your full retirement age, so if your full retirement age is in 2023, this year, you have $47.10 a month instead of $17.70. And then once you cross your full retirement age, there are no limits to how much you can earn whatsoever. For example, if I turn my full retirement age next month, that means I can make and I file this year, I can make up to $4,710 in every month until next month, October. And then there's no guardrails. I can earn as much as I want, collect my full Social Security check. It is important to note that this only counts W-2 wages or earned income. So you have a rental home, passive income from investments, possibly something like that. It's not going to count towards this $21,240 figure. And it only looks at one person's earnings individually. So my father can continue to work, my mother can retire, and only my mother is going to be subject to the $17.70 per month rule. So the first two questions: are you working? Are you below your full retirement age? And if you are intending to collect while earning, you need to be incredibly transparent with the SSA on how much you intend to earn, because they're going to withhold from your check according to what you tell them. And if you're not truthful with what you tell them, well, guess what? They're in cahoots with the IRS. So at the end of the year, they typically find out that you did not make as much as you had reported to them and they overpaid you. In fact, it actually doesn't even happen every year. Sometimes years of overpayments can go by. And I was actually working with a couple out of Virginia last week that was not truthful about how much they were earning, and they had to pay back the Social Security Administration $70,000 for over 24 months of overpayment. This reason we typically discourage people from claiming while working below their full retirement age. Again, maybe this doesn't apply to you in your scenario, which was why I highly encourage you to sit down with your advisor before you begin the application process. So that's your retirement benefit and how it's maximized. Next, we'll get into claiming options if you are currently or ever were married. So you are allowed a spousal benefit. Even if you've never worked a day in your life, you can collect a benefit off of your spouse. The requirements are going to be on the left-hand side of the screen here. You have to be married to your spouse for 1 year before you become eligible, and your spouse must be receiving their retirement benefit in order for you to claim a spousal benefit off of them. No, that's a very complicated way to put it, so I'll use my parents as an example. But you do become eligible at 62, just like your retirement benefit, and it's going to maximize at your full retirement age. If you want to collect half of your spouse's benefit, you need to file at your full retirement age. Again, we'll use my parents. My mother's a social worker. She took a few years off of work to raise me and my little sisters growing up. There's a great chance when she goes to file, she's going to file off of my father. So let's say that she turns 62, wants to turn on Social Security as soon as she can. Well, if my dad has not yet filed, my mother can only collect on her own earnings record. Remember, she needs 40 quarters to have her own earnings record. She does. Let's say she wants to start at age 62. She's going to get her full retirement age is 67. She's going to get approximately 70% of her full retirement age number. And then once my father applies, they're going to compare 32.5% of my father's full retirement age benefit to my mother's benefit at 62. So if my mother files at 62, she's locked herself in to the age 62 benefit amount for a retirement on her own earnings record in a spousal, if her spouse is alive. Again, a popular question I get asked, can I start with mine at 62 and then switch over to my spouse's at 50, get half of theirs? No, you cannot do that. You're going to, again, lock yourself into this age 62 benefit. Now, let's say that my father files first, which typically happens if there's an age gap between the spouses. So let's say my father's already filing when my mother turns 62, wants to collect. If my father's already collecting, they're going to compare this, again, 32.5% to whatever my mom's benefit is. You don't get both benefits. You're only going to get one. They're automatically going to give you the higher of the two. No pressure on you. You don't need to select the box at the end of the application or anything. They will automatically compare the two, give you the larger. But again, it is a good idea to at least double check the ballpark figure with your spouse and advisor. This benefit, just like with your own benefit, if you're below full retirement age, right? So my mom collects 62, wants to go back to work. She's subject to that earnings limit that we covered on the previous slide. So the other benefit available to you if you are or were married is a survivor benefit. You're going to become eligible for this. A touch earlier, At age 60, you become eligible for a survivor benefit if you become widowed. And same thing, you're going to maximize your survivor benefit at your full retirement age. So the three benefits, retirement and spousal and survivor, they maximize at your full retirement age. Only your retirement benefit based on your own earnings record is going to continue to grow until age 70. The marriage requirement is a touch shorter. So remember when my mom went to file off of my father, she files at 62, she locks herself into an age 62 benefit. That's not the case with a survivor benefit. So my mother can collect a benefit on her own earnings record at 62, and then say my dad's benefit's like nearly twice as big as hers, and he passes away. Well, then my mother can swap over to a survivor benefit at her full retirement age and get the full amount of my father's check. You can swap over. And so the way that I think about this is the spousal and retirement benefit, there's two spouses alive. There's only one claiming decision. My mom files at 62. She locks herself into the age 62 benefit. Whereas with the survivor, unfortunately, one spouse has passed away, but you essentially have two buckets of money if you have your own your own retirement benefit, right? So say my father passes away, my mom can collect on her earnings or my father's earnings, not both. But you can start with one, and whichever one you start with, the other one's going to continue to grow, and then you can switch over at any time. This is why a ballpark, we like to say, is that the lower earner has a little more flexibility if they want to claim at a younger age, because they can switch over to a survivor benefit later on. It's really, really important for the higher benefit to try and grow their benefit as large as they can, because delaying claiming will give you those delayed retirement credits, grow your benefit amount. It'll give you a larger inflation adjusted source of monthly income for the rest of your life. And then should something happen to you, that will pass through to a surviving spouse. So we see a lot of people try to grow their benefit, even if they aren't in great health, to try and take care or address some of the longevity risks that might be around once they've been gone. I actually was talking about this, it was around Christmas time actually now, with a family friend. At the party, he was talking about how he couldn't wait to turn 62, turn on Social Security as soon as he could. And everyone does, right? I mean, about 70% of this country files for Social Security before their full retirement age. But he was saying to me, Trevor, I can't wait to turn 62 or turn on Social Security. My family, they have a history of dying in their 70s from a heart condition. I want to get every penny I can out of the government. I want to do some relaxing on Cape Cod before I kick the can, and I want to do so on the government's dime. And I had to encourage him to take a step back and look at this claiming decision through a we and not a me lens. Because as the higher earner, your claiming decision affects both spouses for the rest of your lives. That being said, if you're behind the computer screen, looking to your left or right, not a huge fan of your spouse, go ahead, claim whenever you want. It's really a coordinated decision between the two of you and your advisor. Death is going to be one way that marriages can end. The other is divorce. You're eligible for a divorcee benefit if your marriage lasted 10 years. Other than that, all the calculations are going to be the same. The ages are the same. The percentages are the same. The only difference is going to be that length of marriage requirement. And then remember in the example, if my mom wanted to claim a spousal benefit off of my father had to be claiming. That's not the case with a divorcee benefit. Can get kind of hairy, as I'm sure. So if my parents were to get divorced, my mom can file for a spousal benefit as long as my dad is 62. He doesn't need to be filing. He needs to be 62 or older. And my mom's 62. Then she can go ahead and file for a spousal benefit off of an ex. My father can get remarried. It's going to have no effect on him at all whatsoever. And the exact same thing with a survivor benefit. So I just touched upon it a little bit. Remarriage, how does that come into play? If your former spouse remarries, it's going to have no effect on you whatsoever. Use my parents again. Say my parents split. My dad goes and gets remarried. My father can collect on his own earnings record. After a year of marriage, his new wife can collect off of him as well, a spousal benefit. And then my mother can also collect the spousal benefit off of my father. So that's 3 people claiming off of my father's earnings record in that example. Again, completely normal. If my father or my mom's claiming, again, my dad won't be notified, no effect on his benefit whatsoever. Now, what if my mom remarries in that case? In my mom's case, it's going to depend on the age she remarries. So if you remarry before age 60, this middle bubble here on the slide, you're going to forfeit all benefits off of a former spouse. But if you remarry after age 60, you're going to forfeit the spousal if your spouse is alive, but should they pass away, you'll have access to a survivor benefit off of them. Should your second marriage end, it didn't last 10 years, you become re-entitled to the benefits of your first marriage. If you have multiple marriages that last 10 years that didn't work out, you are eligible for a benefit off of either ex-spouse. Now, so tell a quick story to help illustrate this. Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Scott recently split up a few years back, which means now's my shot, right, for one of the richest women in the world. So let's say we meet an event, it's love at first sight, we get married very quickly. Last I checked, she was in her late 50s. So if we get married, we rush the wedding, she's going to forfeit all benefits off of Jeff, right? Probably a maximum social security benefit. But what if we do what it seems a lot of the younger kids are doing these days? We kick the can down the road on the venue, or on the wedding, excuse me. We have a tough time booking a venue. Maybe we move in together. We get a dog. That buys me a couple years before I have to pop the question. So if we drag that out and we get remarried after age 60, she's only going to be able to get something off of Jeff should he pass away. Doesn't work out between us. It's a short-lived marriage, doesn't last 10 years. We get divorced. She's going to become re-entitled to all benefits off of her first marriage, off of Jeff. So those are the 3 main types of benefits: retirement, spousal, survivor, and they're available if you were divorced, if your marriage lasted 10 plus years. This brings us to our last topic, which is taxes. So as you may be aware, as long as you're receiving income, there's a chance it could be subject to tax. The IRS is probably going to tax you from cradle to grave. So if you're making more than $25,000 of combined income if you're single, or $32,000 if you're married filing jointly, there's a chance that some of your Social Security can be subject to tax. So what is combined income? Combined income is this formula at the top of the screen here that looks a little complex to you. It's because it is, right? It was made by the IRS. Name one thing they do to make your life easier. It's usually a few more hurdles to jump through. So I'll help break it down for you. AGI, this is a very all-encompassing income figure. So remember that earnings limit. If you're below your full retirement age, not yet collecting, you're subject to about $21,000 a year. That's only earned income. This is going to count all income outside of that, right? If you have a side hustle, right? If you have an income property, the sale of a home, if you relocate or if you downsize, that'll count towards this. Non-taxable interest is going to be if you own any municipal bond or bond funds. And then lastly, only half of your Social Security counts towards this combined income figure. There are some things that are excluded from this AGI number, adjusted gross income. They're listed down here, some retirement accounts, healthcare accounts. And so when it does become time to start taking some withdrawals, it's not always, hey, which account do we start with first, but maybe a blend of the two to possibly lower our combined income. And again, these are great conversations to be having with your advisor, because these are some of the things that they're thinking about behind the scenes on your behalf. So only half of Social Security counts towards this figure. So we can get a monthly income figure or need, and we can rely on Social Security for a larger portion of that. We could potentially lower our combined income figure. I like to ask people, are you afraid of taxes going up in retirement? The answer to that question is yes. Growing Social Security may be a defense you have against that. That is about it for the prepared comments. I'd like to remind you of the key questions. Are you working? Are you your full retirement age? Have you coordinated this with your spouse? Do you need the money, or is it able to grow beyond your full retirement age at that 8% a year and adjusted for inflation? Some rules of thumb: the lower earner has more flexibility being able to start at a younger age, because they can swap over to a survivor or spousal benefit later on. And the higher earners claiming decision affects both spouses for the rest of their lives. Claiming Social Security is as much an emotional decision as it is a rational one. And because of that, everyone's scenario is unique. Everyone wants the right answer. And unless you tell me the day that you die, it's kind of foggy, right? There's no right or wrong answer. It's very black and white. If you tell me the day that you die, how to get the most out of the company. I was actually attending a presentation from the SSA last week, and they said that benefit amounts are actually designed to provide about the same average lifetime value, regardless of when you claimed. But I will give you a couple of ballpark figures on break-even ages, because again, it's a very popular question that I get asked. If you claim as early as you can at 62, like to say it's about 14 years before you break even. So 76, you file at your full retirement age, call it 66 or 67. That's about 12 years, right? So 76, 78, and then those last three up until 70. If you file at 70, it's about 10 years, so until about 80. So I'll leave you all with my encouragement to all of you is do not believe everything you heard online or from a friend on what they did, because stuff does change with this. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I studied this for over a year, and you can't just Google the answer. The correct answer is typically not even on the web. So please sit down with your advisor, discuss what we've talked about today, because they're in the best position to help you with this decision in addition to all other aspects of your retirement. With that, Eric, I will pass it over to you, and we'll open up to some Q&A.
Thanks, Trevor. That was great. So again, to remind everybody on the webinar, just use the Q&A tab at the bottom of the Zoom window. If you have any questions, we do have a couple here. If you are divorced, I know you kind of touched on this a little, Trevor, but if you are divorced and of full retirement age, do you have to wait for your ex-spouse to file for Social Security before you can file for Social Security on those earnings?
Nope. Your ex-spouse just needs to be 62 on Social Security disability, unless the divorce happened within the last 2 years. So if the divorce happened within the last 2 years, your ex must be claiming. If it's been longer than 2 years, they just need to be 62 or have been approved for Social Security disability.
Excellent. And if you receive a pension and collect Social Security from your ex-spouse, is the Social Security subject to the windfall tax?
So I didn't get into this because it doesn't apply to everyone. It's going to depend on the type of pension, whether you're paying Social Security taxes or not. So we can definitely get some more info off the line. I'm sorry, you said it was someone's collecting off of an ex-spouse's pension or Social Security?
So if you're receiving a pension and collect Social Security from an ex-spouse, is the Social Security that you're collecting subject to the windfall tax?
Yes and no, right? So we call it for a spousal or a survivor benefit, it's called the government pension offset, GPO, right? And it works in tandem with this. This is if you split your career. So if you have your own pension and your own Social Security, we use windfall elimination provision. If it's not your Social Security, we use this called GPO, the government offset. Essentially, there will be a reduction to your Social Security, spousal, or survivor benefit as a result of you not paying to the program, receiving that pension. They will reduce the Social Security by 2/3 of the government pension amount. But if you do have some of your own Social Security credits, it won't be fully 2/3. And there is a calculator online we can use to walk through this. If you have the pension amounts and everything, it's called the GPO calculator. It gets pretty hairy, gets into the weeds. If you want to follow up with Eric, myself at a later date, happy to dive through that with you.
Excellent. Okay, so if there is not any more questions, I have a bunch of questions that I'm staring at, but they're all the same exact one, which is, can we share the outline that Trevor just went through to all the participants? And the answer is yes. That will be included in a follow-up email for all those that registered, as well as those that maybe registered and were not able to make it. So I would highly encourage everyone that was here, to take a look at that. And again, if you have any specific questions from a follow-up standpoint, don't hesitate to reach out to the office. There's one more question that came in. Is there a maximum family benefit?
There is, yeah. So the family maximum, you can't have more than 180% of the higher earners go towards everyone. So essentially, there's qualifying events for family benefits, disablement, retirement, death. It would apply for children if they meet these qualifications, or you can also get a child in care benefit, part of the program if somebody becomes disabled, retired, or deceased. And you can see like the family maximums over here, depending on what benefit it is and what was the qualifying event. And you can see down here, if the amount payable exceeds the maximum, each person's benefits reduce proportionately. So there is a maximum. And you can see it's typically 180% of PIA. PIA stands for primary insurance amount, and it's the same thing as your full retirement age amount. If it's 66 years and 8 months, that's what's highlighted on your benefit statement. That's your full retirement age or your PIA amount for that calculation. The way they do that is they will reduce. So we'll say we'll use my father again as an example. Say it's me, my 2 little sisters are younger, right? We're under 18. He passes away. My mother can get a child in care benefit to take care of us. And then me and my 2 siblings can also get a children's benefit, but now that's going to be 4 people claiming on my deceased father's earnings record. They're going to decrease those proportionately until we get down to the family maximum. That's how that works.
Excellent, thank you. And then again, a couple other questions or just requests. Will the recording be available? Yes, we will also include that in a follow-up email along with the presentation to all those that registered. One sec, we got one more. Can Medicare benefits be elected before Social Security benefits?
I'm not a Medicare expert. I will tell you the couple of things I do know about Medicare with Social Security. If you are above the age of 65 and collecting, you can't refuse Part A. If you do have a Social Security benefit, it's free for most people. I don't know if you have anything else to add on that, Eric, but I can get into Medicare premiums if that's helpful, or I'm not if that's too far.
I think that's a webinar for another night. That's a whole nother. Yeah.
We have a separate one, and I'm not one of the speakers for that topic, so I'm kind of limited.
No, we appreciate that. So, well, that concludes our presentation, folks, for this evening. We want to again thank everyone for attending. Hopefully, you found it helpful. Stay tuned for more webinars, obviously, throughout the course of the year. Thank you, Trevor, Rob, your counterpart, as well as the entire MFS team for helping us put this together. And hope everybody has a great evening. Thank you.